Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Vulnerability Hangover podcast. I am your host, Nikki, and right next to me is my emotional support pup, or our emotional support pup, Enzo, on the Enzo cam today. Enzo, can you say hello? Oh, yeah, that's my pretty boy. He is the best. Today's affirmation is I don't need alcohol to have fun. And you might be wondering, why are we talking about alcohol? How's that an affirmation? Well, today's episode is my 1 year sober from alcohol and honestly, a lot of other things. Today, we are drinking Martinelli's. I know it may look like wine. It's not, I promise. It is 100% apple juice. Let's take a little sip, but also make sure you're drinking your water as well. You got to stay hydrated. Cheers. So good. I love apple juice. I love juice in general, but something about apple juice is so nostalgic for me. Drinking it as a kid, even though my dad would water it down, my favorite. Let's jump into this episode. Like I mentioned, I have officially been 1 year sober as of March 3rd. I took my last sip of alcohol on March 3rd. Time honestly flies by. Being without alcohol has not affected anything for me in the way that I thought it would. I remember the day completely, and I remember why I decided this was it for me. I went out with a girlfriend and we were celebrating my birthday because I wasn't able to spend my birthday with her. We decided to go to a bowling arcade, which was really fun. We only had a couple drinks, but I still felt a little bit weird. So later that night, I laid in bed with an intense amount of anxiety, which was very normal for me the next day after drinking, but it was happening to me within a couple of hours of drinking alcohol. Usually people say that they drink alcohol to alleviate that feeling of anxiety, but for me, it just intensified that feeling of anxiety and depression. So I knew in that moment, it's time to completely cut off alcohol. It is not benefiting me in any way. I am feeling like shit the next day. It's affecting my mental health, my gut health. I make stupid decisions. I could go on of all the reasons why I don't like drinking alcohol. Let me just go over my relationship with alcohol throughout my life and when I first started drinking. So, my first drink, I believe, was when I was 15 years old and I was at a house party and I unfortunately got too drunk and made a fool of myself and ended up all over Twitter. Some of you may know about that moment in my life. It is not something that I'm super proud of, but I was younger. I shouldn't have been provided alcohol, but I was, and I wanted to fit in. So that kind of got me into my party phase. Every once in a while, we would go out and party and drink way too much, make a fool of ourselves, and then move forward. When I was younger, I loved to drink the Barefoot Pink Moscato, which I can't even imagine myself in my 20s, let alone my mid to late 20s, drinking that type of alcohol. It's disgusting. But that was my go to. And we would always have a bottle of that or this super sweet Moscato, which is practically juice in itself because of how sugary it is, but it does contain alcohol. So I had a lot of weekends going out with friends and partying. It's what you do when you're younger. I was a very rebellious kid. And there have been instances where alcohol did have the best of me. There was one night where we were partying. It was my senior year in high school, and the cops came to the house party and busted everyone. A bunch of people got MIPs. People were on drugs. A lot of craziness was going on, and luckily I passed and did not end up getting an MIP, but that was a situation where we obviously knew we weren't supposed to be drinking, and alcohol did unfortunately get the best of some of my friends. That was an instance where I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be drinking alcohol very much, whatever. I still proceeded to spend my late teens to my early 20s partying. Luckily, I got it out of my system early. My 21st birthday, I went to a bar with my boyfriend at the time. The bar was very bougie, I will say. We just sipped on some lemon drops and drank a shot of tequila. and had these crab tots. It was very nice. It honestly wasn't too crazy of a 21st birthday, but we were saving for that following weekend to continue celebrating my 21st with my friends. My 21st birthday weekend, we first met up at a restaurant that my friend worked at, and we were drinking alcohol, we were having fun. Then we decided to go to a strip club and continue on from there, continue drinking. Throughout that year of me being 21, I pretty much spent every weekend going out with friends and partying and getting super drunk. I luckily never had a hangover back then, so I was able to spend Friday night drinking, go out the next night, and I would always get my drinks paid for. I thought I was having the time of my life going out to clubs, partying, just doing the normal 21-year-old stuff. Then the pandemic happened, but before the pandemic happened, I turned 22. I went to Cabo, Mexico, and I got really sick from drinking. That was my first time where I mixed alcohol. I unfortunately drank beer and mixed it with tequila. I think that was my demise. Also, drinking a lot in Cabo. It's very much a party town. A lot of young people go there to party. We were at an all inclusive resort with unlimited drinks. And those unlimited drinks, I will say, probably didn't have a lot of alcohol, but when we went out into the city, alcohol is very heavily pushed in that area, so we were drinking quite a bit, and I got super sick, so I was not able to enjoy one of those nights, which was unfortunate, but back then, I didn't even know, "Hey, you shouldn't be drinking to be practically puking." I do wanna circle back to when I was 21 and tell a funny story that happened to me when I was out with a girlfriend. Now, this girl I'm no longer friends with anymore. She was unfortunately functioning alcoholic. This girl couldn't hold her alcohol, but she was a lot of fun to go out with. She knew a bunch of people out at the bars. She was always a great time. We always got free drinks, and that's exactly what happened that night. So that night, I went out with this way older guy. I will say I'm not very proud about that. I went out with a guy that was a lot older. We went out for dinner. We got sushi at a really nice restaurant and got drinks. And he wanted to continue on the rest of the night with me. And I was like, sure, it's a weekend. Let's go out and party and have fun. But I was not going to go without one of my friends. So I was like, okay, I want to bring one of my girlfriends with me. And I think it would be a lot of fun. And he's like, sure, I'll bring my friend. And maybe they'll get along great and we'll be practically on a double date. So I went back to my girlfriend's house. We changed our outfits and we started off at this bar pretty close to her house. Our first drink that we had was a mason jar margarita. And I remember it was practically the size of my head. It was huge. I can't remember if I finished it or not, but I knew I felt a little bit of a buzz. And then one of the guys bought us all a shot of tequila, so we had that as well. We started off the night very strong with alcohol and a little bit of food to eat, which is not good. I had sushi, that was not enough. So anyways, we proceeded to go to the next bar, and I can't remember if we went to this nightclub or not, but I remember getting these sugary drinks, and they were called a schoolgirl, I believe. They were practically just all sugar mixed in a slushie with a little bit of alcohol. So we were chugging those. They were so good. It didn't even taste like we were drinking a bunch of alcohol. So I probably had 4 of those. That is crazy that my 21-year-old self could actually handle that shit. But anyways, I was feeling very, very drunk. After that, we decided to go back to one of the guys' house. I can't remember why. I'm sure it was to drink a little bit more. And then we had this grand idea to go out to the strip club. And this is where the night went downhill quickly. As soon as we arrived to that strip club, I started to feel sick. That was my first time really feeling sick off of alcohol. The only other times that I've thrown up because of alcohol was when I was younger and underage. Everyone underage drinks, okay, you guys? It's just a thing. I'm sorry, I have to mention it. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. And so this was my first time being 21 and not being able to handle my alcohol. So they decided to order us a couple of appetizers because they could tell that I was pretty messed up. And I remember I turned to go look at the stage and I did this hurl like a cat, like I was gonna puke. But I gangstered it out, held it in, and then immediately ran to the bathroom with my girlfriend and threw up. I sat in the bathroom. I feel bad for all the girls because you know how girls' bathrooms are. There is practically a line out the door, and there was only 2 stalls, so I was just sitting in there throwing up. It was not fun. Luckily, my girlfriend was sweet enough to go and get me some soda water with bitters to help calm my stomach, but I spent a good probably 20 minutes in there, and then after that, we did decide to go home and call it a night. I don't know how, but somehow that guy still tried to go out on other dates with me, but I felt like I made too much of a fool of myself to go out again. And honestly, that's just not a good look in general. So that was a story from my 21st birthday. And going into 22, I said the pandemic started, and that's exactly what happened. Now, in the pandemic, I feel like everyone went through this where we would wake up and crack a white claw. There was nothing else to do because we were stuck inside and we were quarantining. That's what my ex and I did. We would wake up, sometimes have a drink as early as 9 o'clock. And it was just a thing to do. It was like cracking open a sparkling water. And I wouldn't say I was starting to become an alcoholic, but it was definitely teetering on the edge of that. I was starting to build up a tolerance for it, so I was drinking more. And there were instances where alcohol got the best of both of us. Alcohol has led to a lot of fights. I feel like you are more agitated and are not coherent enough to carry a conversation or figure out anything that's going on. So a lot of our fights were because we were both drinking alcohol. Then when we moved into a new place, that's when it really started hitting us hard. We started drinking a lot more. I remember we used to get the big packs of the White Claws and go through those in practically 2 days or less because we were just drinking so much. I also noticed that I was gaining a lot more weight. I didn't realize that it was partially because of the alcohol. I just figured it was because I wasn't eating as good. And when you drink alcohol, you probably don't eat salads, right? So I was just shoving any sort of carb down my throat. So 23 to 24, I was consuming alcohol, but also taking some breaks with alcohol because I started to notice a trend when it came to alcohol. I was fighting more with the people around me. I was becoming a more agitated person. I noticed a lot of people who were alcoholics. It was frustrating because they were not coherent a lot of the time, and it was just difficult to be around that environment. Alcohol is so normalized in settings that I honestly cannot understand. I feel like it's worse for you than mushrooms or marijuana, but yet we're able to get access to it practically everywhere we go. Being in the industry that I was in, real estate, people would drink because they were stressed out, or people would drink just casually at a networking event. It was so heavily involved in my life at that time that it felt normal. There was one instance that happened to me when I was 23 years old that I won't talk about in this episode, but let me just say there was an incident that involved the cops coming to my house and arresting someone because of a fight that broke out because of alcohol. So that's when I knew the monster is alcohol. So I decided to take a couple months off of drinking, and I didn't have the consciousness, I guess, to realize how much of an effect alcohol was having on my life. I just felt this is normal and everyone does it and it's legal. So why does it matter if I drink alcohol or not? Then, as I turned 24, I started having medical issues where I had to be put on a lot of antibiotics. If you know anything about antibiotics, they ruin your gut health, amongst other things. And I was on several rounds of antibiotics from 24 to 25. So my gut health was complete shit. My mental health was taking a huge hit. And of course, your gut health is very much a part of your mental health. If you don't have a good, healthy gut biome, you probably don't have good mental health. So I started noticing that when I would drink alcohol, I would start to develop almost like a hangover, but it felt like I was anxious or super depressed the next day, and I just want to lay in bed all day. But there was one instance in specific where everything took a major turn. I was out at a house party, and it was around people that I normally wouldn't have hung out with, and I got caught up in a situation where someone had actually spiked my drink. Now, in the past, I have had my drink spiked before, but I didn't know who did it. In this instance, unfortunately, I did know who did it to me, which was completely violating. Luckily, it wasn't spiked with something too terrible. It was spiked with Molly. Still, it was a huge violation. I've taken that substance in the past, and I've never woken up severely depressed feeling like I need to check myself in. And I was so anxious. I wanted to just crawl underneath my blankets and stay there for the rest of the day. It was a terrible feeling. In that time period, I was 24, had a huge life change. Gut health was not doing well. My mental health was not doing well because of my gut health and because I was drinking so much alcohol, going out partying, all that stuff. And on top of that, I had an instance where I was drugged. Complete violation of my body, of everything, and trust. And I think that added to that anxiety feeling and that depressive feeling after drinking that alcohol. But I continued to drink, and then I started noticing that I was progressively getting more and more anxious. Now, I call this anxiety. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but every single day I would wake up and feel extremely depressed. I would feel extremely anxious, and I couldn't figure out why. I was doing all the things. That was when I was really heavy into my personal development. I started focusing more on my nutrition, on my gut health. I was doing all the things, but I still couldn't figure out why I was feeling this way. Then, after one night of drinking, I realized this all was because of alcohol. There were instances in the past where I felt sober curious. I had friends around me who were also sober curious, but for the most part, everyone that was in my life drank alcohol, and it was so pushed in the industry that I was in. So I felt like it was normal, and I didn't understand why I was feeling that way and other people weren't. Now, what I know now, a lot of people feel that way. They just get over it by continuing to drink. And that's not something that I was always able to do. I decided March 3rd that I was going to give myself time to recoup and maybe go back to drinking when I felt like my mental health was where I wanted it to be, where my gut health was where I wanted to be, and where I personally wanted to be. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a month. I'll see how I feel about taking a month off of drinking. A month passed, and I was like, I could probably go another month. And then it continued. And then I got to the 6-month mark, and I realized I did not need alcohol to have fun. I was going out and seeing friends, living up my single life without consuming alcohol. I did feel a lot of pressure from other people around me to drink, but I always made sure that I stood my ground and I didn't drink. Now a year has passed, and I honestly do not think I will ever reintroduce alcohol into my life, no matter what lifestyle change I may have. There's no benefit for me at all with alcohol. I don't feel like I need to consume a substance to feel comfortable to be myself. I feel like if I'm uncomfortable in a situation and I feel like I need to consume alcohol, I shouldn't be in that situation. But it was challenging, especially because a lot of the people that I used to hang out with would drink. Another thing that I realized after being sober for so long is how people act when they drink alcohol. It's always funny. I don't think I'm better than anyone by any means when it comes to drinking or partying, but it is funny. You get to see how people act when they are drinking and you're sober. There's a lot of things that people don't pick up on when they're drunk, whereas when you're sober, you pick up on a lot of things. You're just so incoherent when you drink alcohol. It's been great not waking up every single day with anxiety. It's also been great being able to go out and have fun and remember the things that I've done. It's also been fun making memories sober. There have been other things that I've also cut out in my life. I do not consume any substances. I am not on dating apps. I do not engage with men on a sexual level. I have been celibate for over 6 months, and all of this, on top of being sober, has significantly changed my life for the better. These are all things that are great for my mental health. I'm not saying that you have to cut everything that you enjoy out of your life, but once I cut out majority of my vices, I realized a huge shift. Some of that comes with losing friends too. When you don't drink, it's really hard to maintain friendships with people who continue to drink because either they feel uncomfortable drinking around you or you feel uncomfortable with how they act when they drink. I'm not really the type of person that's uncomfortable when other people around me are drinking because I don't feel that pressure to drink whatsoever. And I'm really good at standing my ground. I'll get a mocktail. But I also really enjoy spending my time with people who are sober. I'm more comfortable with being around people who do mushrooms or marijuana. I think plant-based substances are better for you than alcohol. I think that alcohol is a drug. I also think that caffeine is a drug too, but that is a vice that I'm not quite ready to give up entirely. I am teetering on wanting to give up caffeine, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. I've cut down a lot this year, but I still consume caffeine. So that is a vice that I'm working on, but other than that, I feel like my mental health is in a very great place. Now, there are other reasons why my mental health is in a way better place as well, which I will talk about in another episode. But I think my overall quality of life is better because I don't consume alcohol and I don't see myself drinking in the future. I have no reason to drink in the future. I also know that luckily in my genetic makeup, my family doesn't have a history with substance abuse. So it's going to be pretty easy for me. I know, unfortunately, not everyone has that ability because they could be predisposed to substance abuse. No shame to those people who do. I applaud you if you're able to stay sober. It's a hard thing for people who aren't even predisposed, but eventually it gets easier. I just want everyone to know that if you do drink alcohol, don't feel ashamed because it's so normalized in our society. But I would encourage you to be sober curious. I guarantee it will change your life. I can't imagine going back to drinking. I enjoy my nights at home, not consuming alcohol and being able to fully relax. Another thing that I noticed when drinking alcohol was my quality of sleep was complete garbage. Now I'm actually able to hit REM sleep and I do dream now, which is something that I really enjoy. I love dreaming. I'll just go through the list of things that has improved since being sober. Been able to find out who my genuine friends are. My quality of sleep is amazing. My mental health is way better. I am not having gut issues. I have improved my gut health significantly. Shout out to probiotics and not being on a ton of antibiotics amongst other things. I eat a lot healthier. I feel encouraged to eat a lot healthier. I'm feeling more motivation to do a lot more things and going out and adventure. I am able to be in uncomfortable situations, whether it be meeting new people or in a group setting. I'm really proud of myself for that because there were years in my life where I'd be like, I have to have alcohol in order to fit in. But now I just go into it, raw dogging it quite literally. And no, not literally. Sorry. I just go in completely sober and it's been amazing. For my future, I would really hope that my future partner is sober with me as well. I feel like it's harder to be with someone who consumes alcohol as someone who is sober. I don't mind if they smoke weed or whatever or microdose, but for me, alcohol is very dangerous. It just takes away your cognitive function and you are more likely to make stupid decisions when you drink alcohol. I definitely remember some nights where I was just like, this was very stupid, and it had to do with drinking too much or other people around me drinking too much. People are more on edge when they drink alcohol, so I would prefer my future partner is sober with me as well. In fact, I will not settle for anything less than that. Alcohol was never a huge thing in my family. I never grew up with my parents drinking very much. It was rare that I would see my mom or my dad drinking alcohol. So I think that's also part of the reason why it's pretty easy for me to be sober as well. But now I'm just rambling on this episode. I'm super proud of myself for being able to be sober, and I'm going to continue to be sober. If anything changes, though, I hope you all will hold me accountable, but I'm sticking to my sobriety. And if you or anyone you know is sober curious, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat more about it and encourage you to explore that curiosity as well and surround yourself with people who are sober curious, because who you hang around is a direct reflection of who you are. So, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. Please remember to like, rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And I will catch you guys in the next episode. Okay, love you. Bye.